Seems like a good time to start. Welcome everyone to another town hall hosted by St. Mike's EPG, or the COVID Executive Policy Group, which is the primary team focused on setting the college's guidelines based on those set by the governor's office and the Vermont Department of Health. The EPG is planning on holding these town halls every other week during the spring semester, with the schedule to be posted very shortly.
This town hall, like the previous one, focuses on any new and updated policies for campus in accordance with the Vermont Department of Health. We have received various emails from President Sterrett containing these updates, as well as having them posted to the school website under the COVID-19 and Return to Campus Updates banner, located along the top of the SMC website.
This semester, both Kristen and I are going to be rejoining the CAN class, or COVID Action Network, which works to bring the campus together during this pandemic. We have a variety of groups planning to work together this semester, which include 24 students.
This spring, we will be continuing to improve signage and communication for clarity and aim to spotlight student concerns for the Executive Policy Group. The students in CAN work to create initiatives to engage students in activities and ward off loneliness and boredom. A big portion of the class is partnering with student government and lobbying with other Vermont students for improving college-specific COVID policies.
My name is Kenzie Traska. I'm a senior at St. Mike's, majoring in both anthropology and public health, and I will be co-moderating this town hall.
My name is Kristen Burlew. I'm also a senior at St. Mike's, and I am majoring in anthropology. I am the other moderator for this town hall.
These town halls are created to benefit the students of St. Mike's by offering clarity on guidelines, as well as allowing the students the option to ask questions. Our panelists tonight include President Lorraine Sterrett, Vice President of Student Affairs Dawn Ellenwood, Director of Student Health Services Mary Mason, Vice President of Academic Affairs Jeffrey Trumbauer, and Director of Counseling Kathy Butts. We will be hearing from them shortly with brief introductions in their roles, and as well as updates for the spring.
Students are welcome to utilize the Q&A box. You can enter your questions in the Q&A tool, and we will attempt to get to everyone's questions. They will be answered either in writing on the Q&A forum or answered live by one of our panelists tonight. Please ask questions in a respectful manner, and we will try to get to as many questions answered as possible tonight. If there are questions we cannot get to in the time we have, we will capture those questions and provide written answers and post them to the COVID website.
This event is being recorded, and the recording will be available later on for students after the town hall. If you have any classmates, friends, or roommates who were not able to get into the event, let them know that this is being recorded.
And now for our panelists, a brief introduction and your role for the college. Dr. Sterrett, do you want to start us off?
Yes, thank you very much, Kristen and Mackenzie. It's really nice to see the two of you and to see everybody else and have people gathered together on this Zoom. We would all much prefer to be gathered in person, but we all know why that is not possible. So we're glad to have this technology to help us meet in some form. So we are really looking forward to having everybody back on the 31st, which is Sunday, which is just around the corner. We've been long anticipating the arrival of our students, and can't wait to have you back here as you were before all of this happened. And at the same time, we have been, as you can imagine, we've been monitoring the situation of this virus very carefully, both with the Vermont Department of Health and also with other schools around Vermont. And some of them have a semester that's slightly ahead of ours in the dates. And that has given us the advantage of being able to watch what is happening at other schools. And it's a bit concerning, as you know, it's a bit concerning. Students have come back to some of the other schools, and they're seeing more positive cases than any of us would like to see anywhere. So yeah, you got my message the other day saying that because of this, we have moved the target date for beginning in-person classes from February 4th to February 11th. As you know, we set long ago the date of February 4th, but because of these new developments with what's happening at other schools, with people returning from the break and seeing more virus than is wanted, we decided to make that change. And we realize it's really important to have change. It's really hard to have changes being made in midstream, but the nature of this virus is that we must respond. When things change with the virus, we must respond in order to protect people in the best possible way. So we did go ahead and make that change, and then we will have the test results back before we begin classes. And it is our hope that that target date will stick and that we'll be able to begin classes in person on the 11th. Of course, classes will go on remotely between now and then. So it's really, really important, as we've seen from the experience of other schools, it's really, really important to wear the masks. We know they're not the most comfortable thing, but they are crucially important. Physical distancing is also really important. Again, not the most comfortable or desirable thing, but really, really important. And also, of course, having no off-campus guests. And we all know very well how hard this is. It's really hard to be separated from your friends, especially since you've been separated from so many of them since before Thanksgiving. And we totally get how difficult that is, and we totally sympathize. But it's really, really important. And at the same time, it's really important to think about your mental health, to take good care of yourself. The virus, as everybody knows, has created a situation where people can feel isolated, they can feel bored, they can feel separated from their friends, and that just adds to the complexity and the difficulty that everybody is facing. So I really encourage you to take care of yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Reach out for help anytime that you're feeling the effects. Reach out for help. Watch for friends who may need help, and reach out to people who can help them too, because it's a very, very difficult time, and we all need to be cognizant of just how much people are struggling with this. But we will get through it, and that will involve close contact, close monitoring of the kind that we are doing, close contact with the health department, close monitoring of the kind that we're doing with other schools, learning from their experience, because as I say, they happen to be a little bit ahead of us in this semester. And that's why we made this not insignificant move to postpone the start of classes. So because that's the big new news, we have Jeff Trumbauer, Vice President for Academic Affairs, next on the agenda to talk about that. And then we will move on to some other familiar faces for other aspects of this topic. So great to see you all. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Trumbauer, the Vice President for Academic Affairs, also a professor of religious studies, and I'm teaching a class myself right now. And it's great that we started classes this week. So I've already, I had a Tuesday and a Thursday class this week. So all of you have already been experiencing classes, which is good. And one good thing is actually, as I told my classes, in this format, we all get to see each other's faces on Zoom. When we get to be in person, we'll be masked and we won't be able to see each other's faces. So at least this gives us a chance at the beginning of the semester to know what everybody looks like. So that's been a plus. Yes, I would say that this shift to the by a week of our target for in-person start is significant, but I wouldn't want to overplay it. We know how to do this. We know how to have our learning this way. It's better when we can have in-person components, but we still have a lot of good instruction going on even in this format. And so we will just continue that. And the big thing we wanted to make sure everybody knew, and we asked people to talk about it in classes all this week, or today and yesterday and today, was that it does not change the move-in date. We have to have you come in order to do the testing, the 2 rounds of testing, so we can get to a possible in-person start. So so it doesn't shift that at all. The move-in date, your original move-in dates are still the same. One other thing, and this would pertain regardless of whether of the start of in-person classes, about the bookstore. The bookstore, many of you have already started classes, but some of your books may be sitting for you in the bookstore waiting. I've talked to many professors about this. Professors are aware of this situation, or at least the ones I've talked to are. I hope they're aware of it. And so they're often making adjustments. They're trying to put the first couple of things you have to read online, digitize it and put it on Canvas, or they're adjusting their assignments to take into account that, when you will finally get your books. The bookstore will be open Monday morning at 9, and it'll be open Monday 9 to 5. The bookstore tells me that 400 students have pre-ordered and have the package waiting for them. But it's also, if you didn't do that, you may still acquire books in the bookstore. Just like last semester, they aren't allowing people to go and peruse the shelves, but you tell the staff what you want and they go retrieve it for you. So the bookstore setup will be the same. It will be open Monday morning at 9. And at that point, you can get the books that might be there waiting for you. So that's all I have as by way of introduction, and I'm happy to answer many other questions. And I'm not sure who's the person I'm supposed to pass off to next. Is it Dawn Ellenwood, or who's next?
It's Mary.
Mary. Very good. Wonderful. I'll pass the baton now. Here's a pen. I'll pass this symbolic baton to Mary Mason to talk about health issues.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes. I can't wait for the day when I'm not talking to everyone about COVID. But I did want to give you all just an update this week about what's going on with COVID and within our state, and what you'll be coming back to, as well as just a couple of reminders about the differences in testing this semester. So, happily I can report that the state of Vermont is seeing declining numbers over the past couple of weeks. So they're cautiously optimistic. Our positivity rate is almost down to 2%. I think it's 2.2% today. And we have, like every other state, started a vaccine rollout. The governor of Vermont, as well as the health commissioner, feel really strongly about vaccinating first those most at risk to get really sick from COVID and possibly die from COVID. So they're very committed to vaccinating our elderly first. So they've opened it up to those 75 years of age and older. And that will be for about the next 5 weeks or so. And then they'll go to 70 and older, 65 and older. So what does this mean to you as a college student? It means most likely that vaccine will not be in your future this spring in the state of Vermont, unless things really drastically change in terms of the supply chain. The state gets about 9,000 vaccine doses a week. So right now that's where it's focused, but have no fear. I'm, on the phone with them every week. If anything changes and the plan changes at all and includes college age students for vaccination, you'll be the first to know, right after me. The other thing around changes that you've probably heard already in many forms, and I think I touched upon it at the last town hall, is that the testing will be still in Tarrant this semester, but upstairs on the track. So you will actually walk into Tarrant in those same big doors that you did all fall, and then you'll kind of go through a queue and then up the stairs and around the track. It just allows for people to be able to spread out more easily inside during these really cold days, and you'll be getting your steps in. So it'll be really easy to follow, good signs. You'll check in, do your test, and go out a separate door. We will look forward to seeing you all on this coming Monday and the following Monday for your day 1 and day 7 tests. And we do expect to see some virus. So don't freak out if we see some positives next week. We're welcoming people back from all over the country, and there's virus all over the country. So we expect it, and our health commissioner, Dr. Levine, expects it. We hope not to experience the same numbers that some of our local schools have seen recently, but we also don't expect to see zero. So We know you've all been working really hard to lay low while you've been at home over this past couple of weeks. Just need you to hold on a little longer. And when you return to campus, really, I like to say, keep your footprint small, really hang out with as small a group as you possibly can until we know what numbers we're dealing with, because I hate to increase contacts. The other thing I'm going to make a plea for is don't forget to do your daily health affirmations when you get back to campus. We really didn't have a great run with that in the fall. And we found quite a few COVID cases by people completing their daily health affirmations. It only takes a minute. It's really important. And it helps us find virus faster. And we all have to do it as well as employees. So please, 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 for me and for your fellow students, do your daily health affirmations when you get back. I think that the only other thing I can say that President Sterrett touched upon is that we do have the ability to gain some data from our fellow schools who have started welcoming some students back and learning from that. And what I can say about those schools is, yeah, there's been a couple that have seen more cases than they've liked to have seen. And the students seem to have gotten it fairly quickly. So do know that the governor and the health commissioner have already begun the process of sending those tests to the CDC to see if it's possibly some sort of variant strain that we could be seeing in the state. So far, the state has not experienced any variant strains. That could change tomorrow because it's kind of all around us. So they are looking, and it's just going to help us with more data on how to better care for people and give better guidance. And that is, I think, all that I have for my update. And I'm happy to answer any questions later and can't wait to see you all back. The one good thing about weekly testing is I get to see you all. So I'm really excited to see all of you next week. And then remember, after next week and the week after, you can choose either Tuesday or Wednesday to come every week whenever it suits your schedule. And I think now I hand it over to Dawn Ellenwood. Is that correct, Alex?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Mary. I'm just going to reiterate something Mary just said about keeping our footprint small. The important piece of this is we want to contain this virus that will be coming to our campus. If you keep your footprint small, we're going to be able to work with each student in a quick and intentional way. So that kind of leads me into households. And I want to say, I think 2 weeks ago we had, was it 2 weeks ago, our last town hall, and our household definition has further evolved. And I want to thank Jeff Vincent and Doug Babcock for having not town halls, but area meetings this past week, and lots of really good information and questions came from students around households. And Jeff, Megan, Brian, and I chipped away at clarifying what we're expecting of students. And that I sent that to Alex Bertoni, and that should be up on the website. If not now, it will be there soon. But just some things to think about. If you're living on a residence hall wing and you're in a double room with another person, you can pick up to 2 people each that you agree on as your household. The important piece of that is in your room at any one time, and these are people from your wing. The people in your room at any one time cannot exceed the number of 4. Okay, so that's a piece. If you're living in a single, you are able to choose your household from your floor or the building that you're in, the suite, the floor. So that's one piece. The most questions that have come forward are about those suites or townhouses that are not completely full. And there's not many of them. Please know that there are not many. There is not many of these situations. Once the dust settles, Jeff has promised me that he is going to have an area meeting for these suites and townhouses to talk this through. If you are in a suite, I'll just use a suite, and you're 50% full. So if it's a suite of 6, there's only 3 rooms that are full. That's an opportunity to choose your household of who is going to be welcomed into your living space for this semester. For those spaces that have 50% capacity, housing, Residence Life will send you a form where we're going to ask you who those people are that you've chosen. It's key that all 3 people in this suite agree on who those people are, right? And that household will hang out in your household, your room, because you have the capacity for that. It's clear as mud. I understand that, and there's so many questions. So we want to continue having the dialogue, but we're hoping that the updated definition of households on the web and the return to campus webpage will be helpful. But know that we're going to be in touch with you if you fall into a situation where you get to choose, right? You will get a form from us, I promise. Another thing I'll just say briefly is because of this household guideline that has been handed to us by the state, we have had an influx of students reaching out to, especially Brian Lee, but Residence Life, for room changes and to create living environments that are going to be conducive. We have been able to, over the past couple of days, been able to make some of those moves. We haven't been able to make other moves, and I don't want anybody to think that we're ignoring you or anything to that magnitude. But it's a process. We are still learning of students who will not be on campus. They'll be studying remotely. They need to move stuff out of rooms, and then that room needs to be cleaned, and then we can approve a room. So there's process that we need to follow. And some of you might have information of people who are not coming back that we don't have yet. So let us go through the process, and please trust that we will be in touch with you with your requests as soon as we are able to. A good amount of them were granted, and some of the moves are happening this weekend before the big move in. So that's good. We'll have established households. One thing I also want to say before I hand it over, my staff and I are putting together a list of what you can do while on campus, and especially during the next few weeks. I think it's about 2 weeks or a week and a half of waiting for results from our arrival testing. SGA, Activity Board, and Residence Life Athletics are hitting it out of the park in terms of planning outdoor events for you all when you come back. Student Ashley De Leon, I'm giving you a shout out, reached out to me today, and we're going to try and figure out with Alex and his team how we can have a central spot for all of these activities to be, so a student can go to one spot and figure out what's going on. But a lot is being planned, and most excitingly, there's going to be an ice rink on campus where lots of programming will be surrounding that area. So that's great. Before I hand it off to Kathy, I'm going to make a plea to piggyback on what Mary said. All of how our campus goes forward and what we experience this coming semester is all on our backs, on each one of us. And as Mary said, I I am so excited for the day where I can do my job in a normal way, and not be concerned about the passage of a virus. If we follow the guidelines that have been put in place as asked by the state of Vermont, have been put in place on this campus, if we follow them, each one of us, and we're true to those, our our ability to keep the virus levels low and contained, we can do it. We can do it. But if even 1, 2, 3, 10 of us think that it's not going to happen, or it's not our responsibility to do our part, that's going to make it more difficult. And the goal for each of us who work on this campus and have put tireless amount of hours into trying to figure this out, to give students the best experience they can have in a global pandemic. Our goal is to make it to May and have a full semester. That is the goal. But each one of us has to do our part. And I'm not just saying this as students, but students, there's a hell of a lot more of you than there are of faculty and staff. But I'm going to say I have to do my part, and I have to be tested weekly, and I have to wear my mask, and I need to stay 6 feet away from people, and I need to continue meeting with everybody this way, because that's what I need to do for our campus, and to keep myself healthy. So my plea is out there. I don't think I'm asking anything huge, and I think St. Michael's is up for this task. And as we saw in the fall, it didn't go according to plan, but wow, did we contain that virus? And we did it because students did what they need to do. So thank you. And I can't wait till you're back on campus. It's boring without you. I really mean that. So thank you. And next on the agenda is my friend Kathy Butts. Thank you, Kathy.
I'm actually going to jump in before Kathy for just a second. No, that's fine. I wanted to just clarify where students can find the information on the website about its further details about households and those definitions. Okay. If you go to the COVID website, so it's our URL/COVID, and you go to the information for students, and within that section there, you can see the definition of households. And within that, I have a section that's been updated that provides some of the clarification that Vice President Allenwood explained tonight. So now I will turn it over to Director of Counseling, Kathy Butts. Thanks.
There we go. Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here with everyone today. I just wanted to acknowledge that lots of students have been sharing concerns about mental health with folks from the EPG, with all kinds of staff and faculty, and with good reason, because along with the COVID virus, the other really big challenge that we're all facing right now is around mental health, and how do we keep ourselves mentally healthy in the midst of all the different restrictions that we're facing in ways that we can connect with each other. As many of you know, mental health is not something that we can take for granted. We all have to be intentional and thoughtful and proactive in taking care of ourselves. And this is always true, but particularly this semester when we have less opportunity for connecting in person. And there are some things I wanted to encourage you to consider as you're preparing to come back to campus on Sunday. I just wanted to encourage each person to have a conversation with a trusted person in your life about a good plan to have in place for yourself when you get back on campus. To think about who are your resources on campus, who are your resources off campus, what's the best way for you to stay connected, and that's different for each of us. So what's the best way for you to do that? Is it a regular time to connect with your family? Is it a regular time with a friend that you take a walk in Gilbrook with them? You know, just what's best for you? What can you do on campus? Dawn was talking about some of the activities. I know that there's been a lot of effort being put into thinking about how can we gather in small groups in a safe way outside. So just kind of thinking through what works for you, what's fun and safe for you, when you come back to campus? What helps you to feel joy? How do you connect to that in yourself? And I think it's really important that for each of us that we think about that and really experience joy in our lives every day. So what are some of the healthy ways that you can do that for yourself? What are some stress reduction options for you? What have you used in the past? What can you use when you come back to campus? And then when you are back on campus, what's the best way for you to get support if you end up needing it? And, you know, generally, what is the help available on campus to you? And I would say, first and foremost, that you all, students, are going to be the #1 source of support, as you always are, for each other. You're the best source of support for each other, and you're all really important to each other. So even though we can't be connecting as readily in person, thinking about how are you going to stay connected with your peers on campus? And if you're noticing something about someone down the hall from you, or you know, when you're in the bathroom, or when you're going to Alio, like, just be aware of your peers and really just notice what's going on around you. And if you're concerned about someone, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you're concerned about yourself, please don't hesitate to reach out. And when I say reach out, I mean to a friend or to any faculty and staff that you're connected to through classes, through advising, through sports. There are so many of us that are here, and we really want to make this semester as successful as it possibly can be for everyone. So really want to be available for you to support you. Bergeron counseling is an option. We have individual and group counseling available this semester. And just to get more information about counseling services, or to make an appointment, or to sign up for a group, you can go to the website at, you can go to the St. Mike's website and read more about that. You could reach out to me directly through email or through phone. I'm happy to help you get connected. You could follow us on Instagram at Bergeron Counseling, and I would encourage all of you to do that, because we're going to be posting different things that will be available throughout the semester, as well as just little reminders and tips for taking care of yourself around your mental health. Also, there are going to be some tables when you go for your testing upstairs in the gym. And so I just wanted to let you know that we will have some information there as well, with our phone number if you want to make an appointment, as well as just some tips for you. So just to keep your eyes open for different things that are available, different resources. I also wanted to say that because of student feedback, Res Life hired a new RD to support students in quarantine and isolation, and that's Laura Sundstrom. And we're super excited about having that addition to our staff. Laura, along with Res Life staff and one of our graduate practicum students who's helping us out here at Bergeron, they'll be available to support you if you do end up having to be in quarantine or isolation. So we're really wanting to make sure that we do as much as we can based on student feedback about supporting you when you're in, if you have to go into quarantine or isolation. And as always, if there are any emergencies around mental health, call the switchboard, please. So happy to answer any questions that any of you might have. I'm really looking forward to having you back on campus. As Dawn said, it is really boring around here without you. And you are the life of our campus. So we're really excited to have you back. I believe that we can get through this semester together, but we really need each other, and we have to get creative about how we do that. So yes, can't wait to see you all. Thanks.
I think that wraps up our introductions. Is that correct, Alex? Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for those thoughts and updates. And with that, we'll be moving into the question and answer portion.
So our first question is, what kind of support would students in quarantine and or isolation be afforded? For example, like an RA, medical support. And I know, Kathy, you just mentioned a new RD hired. Is there anything else that students in quarantine and isolation have to support them?
I'll add into that. They had every single day, the students in quarantine and isolation will receive a call from someone in Bergeron, and I'm looking at Mary, medically, but also from the intern that Kathy was just speaking about. In the buildings, every floor has pantries and food for students to participate in, not participate in the food, but go and get something to eat. And every day, I think it's at 12:30, there's a Res Life check-in that students can join. Now, the ADs on call, our associate deans on call, have regular contact with students who are in isolation or quarantine throughout each of the days. And also we have people who go to each building each day to deliver meals and just put eyes on people and say hi. Now, when you're in isolation, that's a little more difficult. We can't walk up and down the hallways, but we shout from the end of the hallway, "How's it going? Here's food. Here, what's going on?" So, and I in the isolation at Joyce Hall, I'm going to give a shout out to Kerry Leach and her SGA team. I know there's at least one lounge, if not two, that will have a TV and video game, and it's somewhere where isolated students can gather, because once you're positive, you can see one another. So we put definitely more resources into the infrastructure. And with Laura and the intern from Bergeron, I forgot the name, Kathy, I'm sorry, having two people wake up and think only of these two sets of students to make contact, to check in with, in addition to what I already just listed, is really going to be, I think it's going to be a nice change. So that's what I have.
Perfect, thank you.
Can I add one thing to that, Mackenzie?
Go for it.
Also, the CAN group, through Laura, will be supplying a variety of treats and activities that can all be gotten in those kitchens from time to time. And they really do make a big difference in students when they go down there and they get a treat bag or they get something like that. It makes their day. And also Res Life and also the CAN group working on kind of some consistent programming in the building. Maybe on Friday and Saturday nights, that'll go, regardless of who's in the building quarantining, that there'll be kind of an ongoing programming as well. So I just add those two things.
Thank you. What will the criteria be for moving students to a hospital setting if needed, and what procedures are, or what are the procedures for notifying the family?
I guess I'll take that, Mackenzie. Thank you. So the state of Vermont is giving us a slew of little finger pulse oximeters. So anyone who's diagnosed with COVID will be able to check the level of oxygen in their blood daily, because that's one single factor that tells us if anyone's in more distress than they should be. We'll obviously keep in close contact with anyone who has been diagnosed with COVID to make sure their symptoms are manageable, and be able to use the expertise of all the nurse practitioners to know when someone is in enough distress that they need more evaluation. Do know that the data so far is that 18 to 25-year-olds do fairly well through this. So and we saw that in the fall. However, we will continue to keep in close contact with anyone who may need hospitalization. And I will just, in terms of notifying families, that's no different than anyone that I feel needs more evaluation at the hospital. It's a conversation between, myself or one of the nurse practitioners and the student and their family. So everyone's in the loop. And, we wouldn't hesitate unless someone was really against letting their family know. We'd have a further conversation about that and why, but that usually is not the case. And we would keep in close contact with families as well.
Great, thanks. What happens if either Joyce for COVID positive students or Ryan for quarantine students hits maximum capacity?
That is a question that the EPG has been discussing for a few weeks now. we're hoping that does not happen. If Ryan gets to capacity, now we're talking about 100 beds, we may need to consider where we quarantine students. Is it hotel? Is it in their rooms? Is it, so we're looking at different options of what would be available to us. For Joyce, we also have senior hall, and there's 13 beds there. So it's our hope that we do not make that, we outgrow that. Another thought is, do we use senior hall for overflow quarantine also? So we have a number of conversations going and research being done of our plan for the event that we go over capacity. And what the health department has asked us is that we have 5% of beds available for quarantine and isolation, and we have more than 5% available to us. So we're in a good spot, but it is a question that we're concerned about, and we will have a solid plan in place very shortly.
I'd also like to add that one thing I didn't mention in that people have been letting me know if they've had COVID over the winter break. And by the way, if you haven't let me know, please let me know, that we have had over 10% of our student body have had COVID since September. So that's, you know, a significant number of people that we foresee won't have it again this spring. 10% of the students who are returning.
Thank you. I know it was mentioned before that there are kitchens in these quarantine buildings that are supplied with food. But are there specific provisions being made for breakfast, noting that the return to campus page references only 2 meal deliveries per day?
Breakfast is given to students, absolutely. That it's delivered with dinner. So you get lunch at around noonish in that lunchtime time. And then for dinner, you get a hot dinner and you get something to eat for breakfast. So yes, that is covered.
Great, thanks. Our next question is, will the Dion Gym be open during the semester?
I'll hop in again. Sorry, I'm talking so much. But what our goal is to definitely open the gym, Tarrant also. But what we are going to do is wait for the results of arrival testing. So we're thinking mid-February is when that decision will be made of opening the gym, the Dion Gym too. So decisions need to be made. The Dion Gym, we need the staffing there while people are using it, and some type of reservation system. So we see that all are using their masks and the equipment is cleaned properly after each use. So that's a little more of a process than Tarrant, Ross Tarrant. So it is a goal though, but it depends on viral level.
Thank you. If we are sent to Ryan or Joyce, will we be allowed to bring items from our dorm rooms into our temporary living space? And if so, what is the limit?
Yes, you will be able to. And I'm smiling because over break, we had students coming back to isolate or quarantine who were traveling in different ways. And a number of staff members, including myself, went to people's residence hall rooms and gathered their belongings and brought them to Ryan. So when they walked into Ryan, they had their bedding and stuff. Yes, bring within reason. You don't want to move your whole room into Ryan Hall, but within reason, definitely bring. I know that I have helped students move TVs in because that's what they needed. Okay, but you need your bedding, towels, and toiletries, and your schoolwork and your computers and that type of stuff. But within reason, you can bring whatever you want.
Great, thank you. Our next question is, if you could get the vaccine sooner at home outside of Vermont rather than here in Vermont during the semester, will you be allowed to go home and to get it?
Thanks, Kristen. So we've had a couple of people already ask about that, and we're thrilled that some people have had the ability to start their vaccine process. They may be first responders in other states. Anyone who needs that to happen, please reach out to me, and we'd like to make a medical exception and have you get your second dose of the vaccine. It's really important to do that and not be off schedule. But there's a way to do that safely. So it involves a little bit of planning, and everyone's situation is different. So email me and we'll figure out how to make that happen. But we have like 3 or 4 students already have a plan around that.
Awesome. How are people with physical disabilities in St. Mike's getting to the testing?
So they, Doug, you can also help answer this, I think, but they will be able to use the elevator in Tarrant. And all your access has been turned on. Anyone who should need that should be able to just go to the elevator on the first floor, go right upstairs, and just know that the whole route has plenty of room for chairs or any other aids that you may be using available to you.
That is correct. ADA access through the Ross doors to people that will need to use the elevators. Reach out to housing to confirm that either you have access if you didn't get notified by housing, and then you can go use the elevators that are in the Tarrant lobby up to the second floor. And exactly as Mary said, the entire track is designed with the ADA accessibility in mind.
Great, thank you. Will students get an extended break this semester similar to spring break?
There isn't a spring break this semester. I think the governor felt very strongly about that for the same reason as the very situation that schools are experiencing right now when students come back from a vacation from being elsewhere. The risk that some of them may be bringing the virus with them is very high, and that puts other people at risk. So there won't be a spring break, but there will be days off, because we totally recognize that people need a break.
And I could add that the breaks that we've programmed in, one each month, there's one in February, March, and April. And we've had lots of conversations with faculty and trying to make sure that they're real breaks so that assignments are not due, even for the day after a break. We're trying to have people not assign things that you have to do before the day to come in. That may not be 100%, but we're working on making them true breaks rather than in the fall. We didn't plan as well as we could have for those breaks because we'd never experienced a midweek break before of figuring out what to do. But I'd say our messaging and planning for that has been much better for spring than it was for fall.
How is Res Hall 4 classified? Furthering, is a wing for Res Hall 4 considered the same floor, or is it extended to the other floors? As if you have living space on the second floor, can your household expand to the third or first floor?
You know, I want Jeff to jump in here. But the only way, I'm just going to throw this in, is if you're going to have you can choose your household as if your apartment is not completely full and is 50% unoccupied, right? So Jeff, jump in, please.
If in Res Hall 4, just like the suite buildings, it would have to be within the building. Mm-hmm. So if you live in Res Hall 4 and you have less than 50%, you would be able to choose within the building.
Great, thank you for that. What is the process going to be for off-campus jobs and getting approval to go off campus for these jobs?
I didn't even put my mute on, so I'm ready here. There's no process for getting approval to work off campus. We recognize that, I'll use student teachers as an example, or students doing academic internships. We're considering that essential travel. So if someone has a job off campus that they need to do and can't take 2 weeks off, what we're asking students to do is to do it in the safest way possible. How are you keeping your contacts as small as possible? If possible, that you can stay on campus during that arrival time testing and can put off going to work. That would be the best possible scenario. But I know as I'm sitting here, that is not possible for all of our students. It's not possible for me not to work. So I understand that needs to happen. But how do we do it in a safe way where we don't bring virus to workplace or from workplace back to campus? That's the key, right? So there's no process, but we are really urging students to do what they need to do, but do it in a really responsible, safe way.
Will study rooms in the suite buildings be open?
That's a good question. Jeff, what do you think? But I haven't talked about that question, so I need some help here.
Well, we had looked to Doug too during our area meeting. We answered this about Dion. That would be a similar question there. Is Dion going to be open? And the answer is yes, it will be open. But if you are in Dion, it should be to a few people, and they should be within your household. I think, Doug, is how we answered that question. And I would say the same thing. If you are using one of the lounges, then you need to be with your household or alone in the lounge.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. If someone is vaccinated but outside of your household, can you see them?
So right now, that's a good question, because I had the question, if all of the nurse practitioners and counselors get vaccinated, can we see each other without masks? And the answer is no, we can't yet. The vaccine helps protect us from getting really sick from COVID. It does not protect us at this point in time from getting COVID or transmitting it to others. Most likely we'll be safe, but until 70% or more of the population is vaccinated, we just can't let our guard down with any of the other guidelines that we have to follow.
Will students still have 24/7 key card access to the academic buildings for studying at night?
I'll take that one actually. So there is not 24-hour access to academic buildings this semester. When we get to finals, if there need to be specific things that professors set up or specific reasons, then we can address that. But right now, we've had to reduce the amount of student card access to various buildings, dorms, as well as academic buildings, in order to limit the potential spread of virus.
Great, thank you. If you're in a suite that is not full, can you only join another suite that is not full, or can you join one that has all rooms full?
I can answer, Don, if you want.
Yes, please.
You're allowed to add up to 4 people to your suite. So those people need to be from the building. So it doesn't have to be all of those things are not qualifiers. It just has to be 4 other people from the building. And those people can only come to your suite. So you can't go to their suite, but they can come to your suite because your suite's the one that's not full or not in capacity.
But I want to be clear on the upper limit of the number of people that qualify as a household, because if there's, just because there's 7 rooms occupied in an 8-person, we can't have 4 more people coming from another suite that's half full. There's an upper limit to that household definition.
Yeah.
Are the break days always just one day or some for a longer period of time?
They're all just one, because any more creates a long weekend. So, or creates an occasion to be incentivized to leave and come back. So they're all 1 day in duration.
Someone said, "Hi, when will the ice rink be built? I am already on campus and would be happy to help build it so I have something to do." Where should they go for this?
Be in touch with Kerry Leach, Student Activities. My understanding is that it's going to be delivered to campus on Monday. So the building will happen Monday, Tuesday. And our fire rescue will be filling it with water. Our fire will be filling it with water. So that's happening the early week.
Cool. If you are in a townhouse, do you have to add people from the same townhouse area if your house is empty?
That's a good question. And these are a work in progress a little bit because so we've considered the townhouse area as one area. And that includes Hodson and RH4. So the question that came up a little bit earlier, I'll amend it because it's what it says on the website right now, the current guidance. So the Hodson, RH4, and all of the townhouses, the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s are one area.
Great. And another household question, just to clarify about household restrictions. I know we've touched on it multiple times. It's just a bit confusing. So the only people who can have people in their suite are people who live in suites with room.
You know, I'm sorry, you froze a little bit, Kristen. Can you repeat the end of your question? Or I froze probably.
Yes, let's see. My question
Sorry.
just lost. Somebody's asking, so the only people who can have people in their suite are people who live in suites with empty rooms. For example, like if there's 2 open rooms, they can have 2 more guests in their suite. What about full suites? How many people could they have?
Go ahead.
The rule is 50% or less. So if you're in a suite of 8 and you have 4 or less people in your suite, then you are allowed to add up to 4 people to your household. But if you are at 5, 6, 7, or 8, your household is your household. That is your household.
And just to piggyback on that, because I know it is confusing because I'm talking in circles. If you are in one of those environments, living environments that's 50% or less full, you will receive a form from Student Life Housing asking you to name who your household will be, who will make up your household. So we know, and we're still gathering that information because, as I said about roommates, it's fluid of where people are living. So once that dust settles, we're going to send it out, and we can send out some now, but we want to know who is going to be part of your household in those situations. So it's imperative that the people living in the house, in the area, agree of who those people are. So we have a record of that.
And I'll add that as Doug said, only 8 people allowed in that suite at any given point, period. Same as a townhouse. If it's a 4-person townhouse, that is their household, and 4 people, that they're the only people allowed in their household. And everybody's doing their best to understand it, so we really appreciate it.
Will the chapel be unlocked during the day even if there's not mass happening?
Do you want me to take this one? Okay, the chapel is open. It's open from about 7 o'clock, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning till around 9 or 10 at night, and it's opened every day. And we plan on to have, mass as scheduled, except the 7 o'clock mass won't happen until, the student quarantines are over. The student mass will encourage, we're asking students to attend mass remotely on, because we're having it filmed and they can watch it at any time they want, live at 11 or any time later that day. I hope you like my picture of Mont Saint Michel behind us. That's in France. The Ebonites were there for 25 years. And you got to walk on water to get there. No. I want to go. When the tides were in, you couldn't get there, but then they put a causeway there. So Ebonites have something about islands. There's Mount Saint Michel, there's St. Anne's Shrine, Isle of Lamont, and Enders Island, Connecticut. I don't know what the thing is about islands. Anyway.
Great, thank you. Will the option to dine in at Alio ever happen again, or possibly this semester at least?
Yes, as you know, it's takeout only until we receive the results of the arrival testing. At that point, Brian Roper, the manager, myself, probably Rob Robertson, we're going to discuss what happens next. If in-person dining happens again, which I'm feeling hopeful about, the dining room as it was last semester is broken up into buildings, right? Living areas. And then in the back by the windows are the 40 meal plan, right? So there will be places where we ask you to sit, and that is all in compliance with the state and the Vermont Health Department, but also it's going to help, God forbid, if we need to do contact tracing where you sat. So yes, that is the goal, but we'll be takeout for a little bit at the beginning.
If classes remain online all semester, will there be some form of a refund for the student body?
Our hope is that instruction will be able to continue since that can be online. I think way back, it seems like a long time ago, but last March when we had to evacuate the campus, we did refund room and board. So it will depend on the circumstances that we're looking at this semester, and but we're optimistic that instruction can continue online if even if everything else were to turn really bad with the virus, that instruction can continue.
Great, thank you, Dr. Starrett. If we were to go into the red level of regulation on campus, would the household terms we currently have and have talked about go away, and we would only be able to be with the people we directly live with?
Well, the household definition is who you live with already, right? So that doesn't matter the level. Only those who choose from outside within their building may be impacted, but that's such a hard question to answer when we don't have all the information that we will need to understand how to keep campus safe. So I'm not going to answer that fully because it's not a yes or no at this point. We really need to understand what the viral load and why we at red. And if we're at red, are we on campus? So it's just we may be, we may not be. See, there's another question. So it's hard to answer that. But the household definition is you're with who you live with. All right, red or not.
Will students be helping delivering meals again?
Did you, I had mute on, mute off. Will students be helping deliver meals? Is that what the question was?
Yes.
We had Charles Cisco, our female rugby coach, oversees this process. And right now, the lineup is faculty and staff volunteering to assist Charles with this duty. We did have students volunteer from the CAN class, CAC. I think we're open to that, absolutely. But at this point, I just looked at the schedule, and students were not part of it as of right now. But if people are interested, they need to contact us.
Great, thank you. Can townhouses / suites who have 6 or more people be outside together since the limit is 5?
It's a great question, right? If you're living together and you have 6 people, and some houses have 8, right? And if you're all outside and you're 6 feet apart and you have masks on, and it sounds weird because you're living in the house and you don't have masks on in the house. If there's a need for your house who has 6, 7, 8 people living in it to gather outside, prior to doing that, I would ask you to let Residence Life know that, because that will be, as we all know, we will be getting Live Safe after Live Safe complaining about that group and assuming a heck of a lot about that group. So if that is going to happen, you need to put some things in place so we understand that what is happening and who is gathering there. Does that make sense? Because, and I'm glad that students notice and are reporting. Don't hear that. But if switchboard and public safety know when that comes in, we know that that has been approved type of thing. But it'll be noticeable, so we need to have approvals in place for that.
Will clubs be happening this semester?
Clubs will be happening, but they won't be in person until further notice, until we are able to have in person. But I know there's a couple of clubs very active already and helping Kerry Leach and the programmers figure out the course of a Frisbee course. Obviously, I don't know a lot about it, but so there are clubs already working together to plan programming for themselves. So, but again, it can't be in person, and that's the difficult piece.
What if students know of people who did not quarantine before coming to campus, or they break quarantine household rules? What should they do?
I would ask students to send an email to housing, to myself, to Jeff Vincent, to alert us to this. And what I would say to this, I want us to be very careful in casting this net. Already, we've had a few reports from students who noticed something on social media of someone who didn't do what they were supposed to do, and it has caused a lot of pain already. And one of the situations, it was an old picture, and an assumption was made that person was doing, and it was an old picture, and the student reached out to a number of people to say, I'm doing what I need to do. So we need to be very careful in how we report one another. And we need to have the facts and understand that we have the correct information if we're casting that net. But I would want to hear that, and we would have conversations with those students, definitely.
And if I could tailgate onto that, Dawn, for any of you who don't live in Vermont, the governor asked all Vermonters at Thanksgiving and Christmas to just stay with your immediate family and not gather with other households. And, it wasn't easy to do. And not everyone followed the rules. So the state of Vermont asked Vermonters afterwards, knowing that there was some risky behavior, to think about, well, if you couldn't do it perfectly, could you at least lay low and see as least amount of people as possible over the next week or two and test frequently? So if you are a student and you've been not so great at quarantining over these past couple of weeks, or you might have done something that might have increased your risk a little bit, here's a couple of things to think about. Maybe get a test before you leave home this weekend. Maybe when you do come back to campus, really don't interact with a lot of people until you know what your test results are on Monday and the following Monday. Watch for symptoms, do the best you can with where you're at right now. And if you really think you might be at high risk and that you might have been exposed to someone who's had COVID and you should be quarantining at home before coming back, let us know. We'll work with you. We'll work around that if it's a truly high risk situation. But again, the less amount that we can keep this virus from traveling around people, the better. So that's just some other suggestions to think about. If you're thinking, maybe I could have done a little bit better, lay low, get tested, test before you come back, test twice when you do get back, and we'll work with what we have.
Thank you. What is the current plan for athletics on campus?
The athletic department has a very detailed plan that they sent to the EPG to consider, and it's very detailed and beautifully done. And I don't have the details in my head, so I'm not going to tell you, but there is a plan for this fall. And once we get through arrival testing, that plan it starts, and it's winter teams, spring teams, meeting in small groups and starting to strength and condition and get to build towards practices and things like that. But I urge whoever's asking that question to check in with athletics, because it's very detailed, or if it's an athlete, a coach or something. But nothing happens until that testing comes back.
Someone says, sorry, I know this has been covered, but just want a little clarification. For students living in Lines and alumni, are students allowed to hang out with other people from other floors or just their floor?
Their floor is what their wing is what we're asking them to stick to. So in determining who their households will be, it will be others from their wing right now.
What are ways we can give Res Life a break instead of constantly reporting people?
Okay, I'm going to repeat that question. How can we give Res Life a break and not keep reporting people? Well, I'm going to say this as a community member. If you see something happen, if you see someone who's not wearing a mask sitting in Dion or in the library, go up to them and say, hey, can you put your mask on? Right? Or if they're doing something that's not with the guideline, if you're in Alio and the person behind you is getting a little close because they're talking and they're in their own little world, hey, can you back up a little bit? You're in my space, right? It's going to take all of us and doing it in a kind way, right? And because we're all in this together. So you know how many calls and reports come through LibSafe, Public Safety, Res Life with minor things. And wearing a mask is a major thing that we're asking you to do. But it's really easy for one person to say to another, can you please put it over your nose, right? This is when you should be wearing your mask. We all have to do it. We all have to do it on campus and off of campus, right? So I think taking care of one another and asking fellow students and reminding fellow students to abide by the guidelines is key. And I'm going to use this example, and Jeff has said this a number of times, and it's happened to me. How many times have we walked, I'm walking into Shaw's and I'm walking along and I get to the door and I see the sign that says, oh, you need a mask, and my mask is in my car because I'm in my own little way. It happens. And I run back to my car to get my mask. We can't assume that someone is trying to be sinister and by not wearing their mask. They're forgetting, it slipped down. They need a reminder. So as a community, can we do that? And I really do think you all saying something to one another is definitely more effective than me saying it. So let's not sell ourselves short. So I really think that's a great question. We're all in this together, but never hesitate to reach out for assistance from Res Life or Public Safety. But there are things that we can take care of ourselves.
Yeah. And I want to just follow on that's our real success in all of the safety issues on campus can be advanced a lot further by that sense of community. And you don't have to, and again, Dawn said you can go and be kind about it. We're not, this isn't about causing a huge confrontation. Simple reminders, even from a distance away, little visual clues, masks, things like that can help trigger people, because really we're on this campus because we want to be part of a community and we want to be here. So it is very important to remember that sense of community is one of the great strengths of St. Mike's. Please have faith in that and try to do each and every person's part. We should each try to do that. And if that doesn't work, then, then reach out, as Dawn said, never hesitate.
Great, thank you. Somebody is wondering, can we still get food deliveries on campus?
Just to clarify, food delivery is like from off-campus vendors, right? Absolutely, and we ask that it's contactless, right? And this is a conversation we have over and over with students living in Ryan or even in Joyce at times. How do you get a delivery? There's a certain spot where the delivery person can leave it, but yes, you can, but it's contactless, right? So the person coming leaves it, you go and the person immediately leaves. Yes, that does happen and can continue to happen.
Great, thank you. So we have no active questions in the Q&A box. We are going to start wrapping up. We just want to remind you that if anybody has missed this town hall and wants to see it, or you want to rewatch certain parts of it, this recording will be posted to the COVID page under recent updates on campus on the SMC website on Monday.
Thank you to all of our panel members. We appreciate your participation and hope that it brought some clarity to the students at St. Mike's. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions and all of you viewing. And a special thanks to Kristen McAndrews, Alex Bertoni, and Doug Babcock for running the question box.
Thank you to the St. Michael's College EPG, the Executive Policy Group, for hosting this. If anybody has any further questions about what was discussed tonight or has feedback for the town hall, please email the returntocampus@smcvt.edu email, or you can feel free to contact us, Kenzie or I, via our SMC emails or to the @smc.can Instagram page. Thank you all again for joining us.
Thank you.